And then let's go ahead and get ourselves started, everybody. Thank you for being here. Welcome to Parent Lab. It is session 4 of CalFresh. We are finishing up this series. I'm going to go ahead and let Mr. Nick, is that what you want to go for?
Sure, that's fine.
Get us started here.
So, thank you guys for coming to session number 4. As Trina said, I am Nick. I'm here filling in for Robert today. He was filling in for Refugio, who started the game. So you're getting me today instead of Robert. Refugio should have gone through the planning and the shopping portion of it. Robert probably did the saving portion of it. And today we're doing part 4, so we're doing the cooking part. And I will start that just a moment. Our recipe needs to simmer for a little bit. But before we do that, everyone that filled out one of these does not need to do this. That's the demographic, that's just online. But if you have a cellular device that can scan that QR code and fill out that another survey for me, you should have taken one on first session. And so we're taking the same survey over again, and we're going to try and see if we've made any difference. And maybe you guys are making some healthier choices. But as we do that, I'm going to get the recipe started. Inside those bags that we gave you, you should have cookbook that I threw in there. I think it's called Let's Cook. It looks like this. So if you want to follow along, the recipes on page 42. We were making chili, tomato, beefy macaroni today. Now, when I first started this job, I was a little concerned because I had to get up and cook in front of people. And we'll let you get that little secret. Perfect cook. But then I had the thought that these recipes are purposely designed for people like me, people that maybe aren't very good chefs or very experienced chefs. And so I haven't failed at a recipe yet. I've never made this before, so we're gonna see if I fail at it today, but I don't think I will. It's pretty straightforward. But we'll walk through the ingredients with you guys. Again, I'm on page 42 if you want to follow along. If you don't, you just want to listen to me talk, that's fine too. I like to get all my stuff set up ahead of time in order, prepared before I start cooking. That way I'm not scrambling for ingredients or looking around, and you get to make sure you have everything so you don't get in the middle of the recipe and have to send someone to the store, which is miserable. So we have our ground beef, we have our water, which is in here. We have our uncooked macaroni, which is in this little tub that I mentioned earlier. We have a can of diced tomatoes. We have our chili powder. We have our Eating Smart seasoning mix, which I found this in the cabinet at work, and I didn't know what it was. But if you flip the page over to page 44, it tells you what it is. I believe it's black pepper, garlic powder, dragon's onion, and parsley flakes, and dry milk. So it's all those mixed together. And then we've got our salt and our cheddar cheese that we're gonna put on at the end. So we collect shredded measure all the ingredients, and then we brown the ground beef over medium heat in a large skillet. We're gonna go ahead and start that now. If I can get this open, and the one thing I forgot to bring with me is a knife, so hopefully I can get this open with my fingers. I think it's open. 1 pound, we need 3/4 of the pound, so we're just gonna eyeball it here. Okay, tear this. Okay. And we just tear this open. Normally you'd have a knife here over your kitchen, but I forgot to bring them because it's Friday. So what we're gonna do instead is just put this open, and this is gonna look that wonderful, but we'll get it out in here. And then we're going to medium heat, so we'll turn this on to a relatively medium heat here. We grab one of our spoons, and then this is gonna simmer for like 20 minutes. So that's cooking. Then we're gonna go over the PowerPoint here. Pretty straightforward stuff. All right. So we're just gonna get our spoon. We're gonna break that up and brown our ground beef. So the recipes are relatively straightforward. The good thing about these, all the recipes that are in this book, a lot of them are sort of like bases, and you can pretty much add whatever ingredients you have at home or things that you like, or if something in there you don't like, you can take that. You don't have to use exactly what the recipes say, but you want to try and substitute with healthy options as well, right? So let's go on here. Just rip that up. Well, this is Brownie. Do you guys have any questions, maybe from previous sessions, or any burning questions that you want to ask me? I do have a biology degree, so I kind of like science stuff anyways. Not specifically cooking, but so we're gonna let this brown here for just a little bit. And we're gonna jump back and forth. So if you fill that out, that's great. The goal from last week, which we're checking the price on 3 commonly purchased foods, use 1 coupon for items you frequently purchase, try less expensive store brand, or buy bulk item portion into bags. Has anybody managed to achieve any of these things?
Yeah.
You did? Which one did you?
All there.
All in all? Yeah, so these are all great tips, ways to save money. Plan shop, save money, right? And things you can work into your natural routine, so you can make sure that you're saving a little bit more money. Well, isn't browning? Does anyone want to share with me a meal that you prepare often, but you're short on time, money, or food? Do you have like a go-to, like, oh, if I'm running late, I know I got this in the cabinet at home. I know I can cook that up. Spaghetti, right? Jar of sauce and pasta, right? Absolutely. Anything else? Anything else that's quick? Macaroni. Well, we're using macaroni, mac and cheese, right? Yeah. So this is gonna be a little bit healthier than mac and cheese. It's gonna have some cheese on it, not quite as much as like the box stuff, but we'll get there. Me personally, I'm lazy. I make peanut butter sandwiches when I'm out of time, but. All right. Get that brown. So our objective today, we're gonna learn how to prepare a quick, low cost and healthy one pot dish to add to your go-to list. There is a recipe in that pack that I gave you. It's not the one we're making today. I think it's like a broccoli cheese soup, which I have made before. It's actually really good. But if you want to make this one, you have the cookbook now, and that recipe I gave you on the paper is probably most likely also in this cookbook as well. So hopefully, and it's one pot, so you don't have a bunch of pot pans to clean up afterwards. One pot meals are really good because it's good use your leftovers. So like I said, these recipes are pretty variable. So if you have something left over you need to use, you can make one of these meals and add that in there. And that way you're not wasting food, which also saves you money. And especially if you're cooking healthy stuff, then you know that anything you add in there is going to be healthy, right? Your leftovers are going to be healthy as well. Add vegetables or grains to make a stir-fried casserole, stew, or soup. So like anything you can add veggies to it. And most likely, if you season it well, you're not really going to notice the veggies are in there. Most veggies don't have a very strong taste. Besides celery, I don't like celery, but other than that, it's a good way to get your greens in there. I personally make a lot of fruit smoothies. I don't know if that recipe's in there, but we do have a website as well. So if you search CalFresh recipes on Google, it'll be like the first or second link that pops up, and there's like thousands of recipes on there. I make the fruit smoothie, and then I add spinach in there, and it's good because I don't have to eat a whole bunch. I don't have to like chew a whole bunch of spinach up, but I'm getting greens in there. The last thing to say about this is it's fast cleanup. I mean, I'm literally cooking in a room that's not a kitchen, right? So if I can bring stuff and cook it here mobily, obviously you can do it at home and it's super easy. So we're gonna talk about cross-contamination a little bit. Inside your bag, there's 2 cutting boards in there, one's red and one's green. The reason we give you 2 different ones is we're trying to not cross-contaminate, right? So does anyone know what cross-contamination is? We'll take a shot at it.
Like putting like meat and then
And then vegetables, right? So there's germs that live on meat that don't live on vegetables, and if you cross-contaminate it like that, you may not cook your vegetables well enough because meat needs to reach a certain temperature. So you've got like salmonella from your chicken all over your carrots, and you don't cook it at high enough temperature to kill all the salmonella, and you get sick, right? So most people don't use 2 cutting boards. Most people use 1, but as long as you cook it in between, or excuse me, scrub it with soap and water really good in between, and scrub your cutting utensils as well, you should be totally fine. So we're looking around here a little bit. We'll go into that a little bit more as well. All right, so our first steps to take when preparing to cook, wash your hands, clean the cooking area, which I wiped this all down, wash my hands before. Get your ingredients, including your spices and your utensil used for preparing the meal. So I got all my stuff on here, went to my recipe, got everything all laid out, which again, it's a good idea. You make sure you have everything. You make sure you have enough of everything before you start cooking. That way you don't have to send anyone to the store, which again is just wasting money because if we're planning properly, we make 1 trip to the store and we have everything planned out. We have all the stuff that we need. So cross-contamination, like we said, is using cutting boards and knives and preparing meat and produce. You want to make sure to you know what? Something I forgot to mention. This is what this picture is trying to show. The picture's pretty blurry, but when you store things in the fridge, most people have a dedicated vegetable drawer, but if you don't, you're a person that just throws your vegetables into the fridge. Make sure your vegetables are on the top shelf and your meat is on the bottom shelf, just for the fact that if your meat's up top and it starts leaking, right? It's like got fluid or anything on it. It can drop off, run down and land onto other stuff and you don't notice. And then again, cook your vegetable. Don't cook them at high enough temperature for long enough and then cross-contaminate it, sick that way. That's the way we like to order the fridge. We're almost done on that ground beef there. Wash your preparation area, your cutting board and your knives in between preparing each item. I know most people aren't gonna like, if it's two different kinds of vegetable, you don't need to wash, right? But if you're going from meat to veggies or vice versa, it's always a good idea just to make sure we're not spreading those germs around that are gonna make us sick, right? Down a little bit, rip them down. All right. And that's because of bacterial growth. So we all know about germs, we all know about washing our hands. There's a specific temperature that bacteria like to live between. And that's like 41 degrees, I think it's on the next slide, 41 degrees Fahrenheit to like 135 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So when we store food, obviously we're gonna put things in the fridge that's lower than 41 degrees, and then when we cook food, we're gonna heat it up to higher than 135, right? So either way, if it's cold, bacteria are gonna multiply. If it's too hot, we're gonna kill all of them, right? So we're trying to keep them off of our food, bad stuff. Food provides nutrients for bacteria to survive. Lots of times, it isn't the bacteria itself that gets us sick. It is a product of their metabolism, right? So whatever they're eating, they're excreting things, just like we make waste, bacteria makes waste. A lot of times that waste is stuff that is poisonous to us or it can make us sick for various reasons, right? Okay, we're looking almost done here. Bacteria grow best in food that contains little to no acid. So like a lemon it's gonna be much harder for bacteria to grow on something like lemon because it's very acidic. But stuff like beef is prime real estate for bacteria. And I already mentioned the temperatures. Bacteria needs time to grow. So the more time bacteria sits in the danger zone, bacteria grow at the unsafe levels. If your food's been sitting out on the counter for longer than 2 hours, after like maybe you're done eating, you left the pot on the stove because you're feeling lazy. Anything after 2 hours is technically considered unsafe. So like at a restaurant, if it's more than 2 hours, they're gonna throw it out, right? Most of us, I know, maybe leave stuff on the stove for a little while or overnight, and you're like, it'll be fine, throw it in the fridge. Yeah, you could be all right, but you're rolling dice, you know what I mean? So we're gonna shut this off. So we're gonna keep this going. This says remove the excess fat. We're not doing that today because I don't feel like it. We're gonna add the water, the macaroni, the tomatoes, and the chili powder, and the seasoning mix, right? So our water, we need 1.5 cups. So here's I think these are cups, so we're just gonna do this. Going with the water. I have a half measuring cup here for the rest of the water. Probably eyeball it, but I'm a measuring person, so I like to measure stuff. Water, and then we're going in with the macaroni, tomatoes, and chili powder. Macaroni going in. This says we can turn the heat back on, so let's do that. That water's cold, so we'll heat up. Going with the macaroni, it's 10 up. Going in with the tomatoes, we're not draining them. We're gonna get our can opens. Yeah, this is convenient. So these are petite diced tomatoes. Throw those in there. I'm putting the chili powder in because a little seasoning never hurt me on. Yeah. And I've had this before when my coworker made it, but I've never made it before, so see how it turns out. Should be fine, surely, right? We're going in with this. We'll give that a good stir. And then bring it up to a boil and then reduce the heat to low, let it cover, let it simmer for approximately 20 minutes or until the macaroni is tender. We'll just keep an eye on this stir here. All incorporated. Let me reduce this down. It's looking great. We're all incorporated here. Get to a boil, simmer. Any questions so far? Anything about bacteria we need to know? Don't know. So oxygen, some bacteria needs oxygen to grow, some can grow without it. So looking things out in the open is bad, but there's also bacteria that grow in places that maybe there's not a lot of oxygen. So it's always best to make sure you're cooking properly, maintaining plentiful procedures. And bacteria grow well with foods with high level of moisture. Things that are moist, bacteria tend to like. Bacteria like dark places, and they like warm places, and they like moist places. Notice I didn't say hot, they like warm, they like that middle part. So, that's where they tend to grow best. When you don't have the listed items, you use different colored peppers, onions, or cauliflower if you have broccoli. So this is for that recipe that's in your packet there. It's basically telling you to make substitutions. So I don't know, maybe you don't like tomatoes, you want to use something else, feel free to substitute, right? Any fruits or vegetables is totally fine. Use what you have in your kitchen. So if you're like, oh, I need to get rid of this stuff, and I'll just put it in there, right? One pot. Not really gonna affect it. So earlier I was talking about temperature, right? So this is the USDA guidelines for what temperature you're supposed to cook your, meats to. And some of them are different temperatures. Does anyone own a heat thermometer? You guys eyeball them. You can eyeball them this time. I wouldn't recommend getting a meat thermometer. They're not super expensive. There's two different kinds. There's like the little analog kinds that has like the dial on the front. We like the digital ones better. The analog ones tend to get out of calibration. And so like it'll read correctly for a little while, and then you have no way of knowing whether it's reading off or not. And that can be dangerous, right? Because if we're under temperature, then that's bad because it could still have bacteria in it. So the digital ones are better. So for our steaks, our pork, our lamb, roast, pork chops, anything like that, 145 degrees is internal temperature that we want. So generally when you have a recipe, it's going to give you a time on it, right? If you don't know if it's done or not yet, or it looks a little pink in the middle, you can always use the thermometer, check the internal temperature. If it's at 145 or higher, you're good to go, right? We just cooked all the way through. For our fish is also 145 degrees, same as our beef. Any ground beef, pork, veal, lamb is 160. Does anyone know why? Because like our pork chops and our steaks are all 145, but our ground products are 160. We'll take a shot as to why. So most of the bacteria that are on those things live on the outside of the meat, right? So as you like have a piece of steak, most of that stuff is on the exterior, a lot less on the interior. When we grind it all up, we take all that bacteria living on the outside and we mix it all together, right? So we need to get those hamburger patties up to 160 degrees to make sure we're killing all the bacteria that are in. Eggs also 160 degrees for any egg dishes. They use like quiche as an example. I don't know how many people make quiche, but if you're frying an egg in a pan, usually they're going to exceed 165. I don't think you need to like put a thermometer in your egg or anything like that. And last but certainly not least is our poultry products. So any of our chicken or turkey or things like that need to be 165. You can get sick from undercooking any of these. Salmonella from poultry products from chicken is particularly bad. So make sure 165 to 10. You get your chicken done all the way through. Don't eat your chicken rare. It's not a thing. And this is a great photo. So when I first started this job, I knew I probably wasn't eating enough fruits and vegetables, but I wasn't really sure like how much I was supposed to eat. So this is like an actual real life example. The first thing I noticed were like the portion sizes and the proportions to each other, right? Half of your plate being fruits and vegetables, because most of the time like certain salad or green beans or whatever we're having that night, it would be like a quarter of the plate. And this is like, no, your fruits and vegetables need to be half of what you eat, and then your protein and your grains are the other 2 quarters. So usually like, I would never serve myself chicken breast to cut part of it off like that. I would usually just eat whatever size chicken breast is in there, right? But if you are counting right, a quarter of your plate should be your protein, a quarter of your plate should be your grains, and then the other half is supposed to be your fruits and vegetables, right? And then you don't always have to drink milk. I know milk doesn't go with every single meal, but there's tons of ways to get your calcium right. So cheating your yogurts or hot and cheese or things like that. And this is for our chicken, broccoli, and rice casserole, which you have the recipe for in that paper that I gave you. So you can look at that. That's what we're supposed to make today. But Robert said, hey, what's the ingredients for macaroni? So I said, cool, I'm making macaroni.
Okay, see that here now.
So there's our chicken breast. There's our bell pepper, white or yellow onion, green mushroom soup. There's our brown rice. Brown rice is better than white rice. In the process of turning white or brown rice into white rice, they remove the husk on the outside of it. And then they also remove the germ on the outside of it as well. And that's where it's like skinning or peeling an apple, like all the good stuff's in the skin of it, right? So it's the same concept for rice, the good stuff's on the outside of it. So brown rice will be better for you, any whole grain starch. So everyone should have one of these, right? So this is our 5-day menu planning worksheet. So this is, you don't have to use this exact thing. This is just a good way to organize your thoughts if you're going to try and plan out a grocery list, right? So you can start at the top and these are what I already have. And then you can go every single day, Monday through Friday, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. And then you can use those check boxes at the bottom to see if you're hitting all 5 of the food groups. We don't necessarily, you're not usually going to hit all 5 food groups in every single meal, but over the course of the day, you want to try and hit all 5 of them, right? So that's a good way to track that. Yeah, it's pretty much it. Let's see what else we got. So your goals is create a meal plan for the entire week, shop for an entire week for food using a shopping list. So again, if we're trying to save money, limiting trips to the grocery store is a good way to do that. So you have everything planned out. Makes your day easier too, because you know, I got all the ingredients at home. I know what we're eating tonight. I know I'm not gonna have to send someone back to the store, and I'm not gonna have to waste gas and time going back to the store again. Pull this down the road, so we're gonna be pretty. There we go. Any questions? I kind of multitask today. Usually we do this and then that one, then jumping back and forth. We have any questions? I talk fast. I know I talk fast, Chase. Get anything.
Checking in. Any questions here online?
Oh yeah, do our online friends have any questions? Talk loud too, so hopefully they heard me.
Oh, yeah, no, you're coming through really good. Good, good, good. If there's any, we'll see.
And that's pretty much it. This lesson tends to be a little bit shorter than the others. So I'll leave that up if anyone else wants to do the post survey. If you guys don't have any questions, once this is done, you guys can sample some and we can go through what's in your bag too. There's all kinds of goodies in there. There are 2 separate cutting boards. So again, we talked about our meat and our veggies being on 2 separate cutting boards. So if you don't want to wash them in between, you can just have 2, swap between them, put them at the end. There is a vegetable scrubbing brush in there. So you don't need to use soap and water on your vegetables. Most people just rinse them off. But there is some dirt and like leftover stuff on there. So there's a brush in there. You can kind of get a good scrub before you use them. What else did I put in there? There are some measuring spoons. There are grocery lists, like with a magnet on, you can put on your fridge. There is a ingredient list, checker thing with like a magnifying glass. So if you're someone that's like, you know, hard of vision, like I am, you can use that to kind of look at the back of the packaging and figure out, and that also teaches you, I'm sure you had a lesson about all the different names for sugar, right? One of the guys told you that. So I've got that listed on there. So these are all good reminders, ways to remember to eat healthy. There's a interior refrigerator temperature checker magnet. Make sure that your fridge is at the right temperature so you're not leaving stuff in there that's over 41 degrees and you're growing bacteria and stuff you're gonna feed to yourself and your kids. All kinds of good stuff. I went down the line at work and just threw one of everything in there. Absolutely. If you guys want to keep those extra on the, no spit off my nose, I didn't pay for them. Other than that, that's it. It's a short lesson today.